All right, let's do a little did you notice? And I'll bring up some random stats or players, some things that I noticed here, and they were surprising to me. Kristian Campbell has been cooling off quite a bit. 0 for 4 with a walk and a strikeout, and in his last 9 games, he's batting .079 with 0 extra base hits, a 31% strikeout rate, lots of ground balls, not hitting the ball very hard. He's down to a 248 batting average, 736 OPS. The expected stats are trending down as well. And I only noticed this, Chris, because I was, updating the infield rankings, and I'm like, wow, his StatCast numbers really fell off here. So, any thoughts on Kristian Campbell?
You may have noticed too early, however, because he did hit a home run in this game. That one went into extras, and he hit a 2-run home run. But you're not wrong. It's 1 for 5 with a home run today. But overall, he has really slowed down. I don't really make much of it. You're still talking about a very raw young player who is going to have ups and downs. I hoped that he was avoiding the struggles that most rookies go through, but that hasn't been the case. But you look at the overall numbers, and you'll take a 260 batting average with, probably a 20 homer pace and hopefully more speed moving forward. He's certainly cooled off. I can't deny that. I also can't say I'm too concerned about Kristian Campbell yet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for the correction. Did not see that he homered in extra innings in that game. I think Campbell, we're all aggressive in moving him up early in the season, but now that other names are kind of emerging as like breakouts or re-breakouts, Michael Garcia, Jorge Polanco, Gleyber Torres, would you take any of those 3 over Campbell rest of season?
They
have better track records. They've kind of been there, done that, and they're all off to great starts. So
they do have better track records, but they're not like can't miss guys. Even Gleyber, especially the past couple of years, has been pretty mediocre. So I am inclined to still take Kristian Campbell. But we did have a discussion about Kristian Campbell, I think last week, where we talked about moving him into the top 5. That feels like it might have been premature. On the other hand, second base is kind of in trouble right now.
Oh,
just because
it's terrible.
Westberg's on the IL, McLean is slumping hard. Tommy Edmonds on the IL, Jazz is on the IL.
You can make the case that Bryce Terang is the number 1 second baseman right now.
I wouldn't make that case. I would Ketel Marte. I think is still pretty good.
But I guess top 2 or 3.
Ozzy Albies has been terrible, and Jose Altuve has been disappointing. So yeah, it's there's depth at second base still, but yeah, the top end's been pretty bad.
All right, let's talk about Robbie Ray.
I got my tight pants on.
Who gutted his way to another quality start here. 6 innings, 3 runs, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, had 20 whiffs on 108 pitches, threw 69% of his pitches for strikes. Nice. And Chris, did you notice that Robbie Ray has a quality start in 4 straight, and he has 8+ strikeouts in 3 of those?
Did you notice he threw the changeup 18 times today?
He was just a much more complete pitcher in this start.
Mixing it all up. 5 whiffs on the changeup.
All 4 pitches. And they were all good.
It's the weirdest. 54% of his pitches were in the strike zone today. That is really, even when Robbie Ray's good, that's a really high number. And this one looked like it was going to be a disaster. I think it was 3 walks and 3 earned runs in the first inning, if I'm remembering correctly. That was bad. And then he turned it around in a huge way. I think Robbie Ray's just really good. Yeah. And the early season struggles were mostly a mirage. There will probably be another 3 or 4 start stretch where he walks, 12 guys, because that's who Robbie Ray has always been. But I think he's really good, and he's incorporating all 4 pitches in more consistently now, throwing the curveball a lot more as well. I'm a Robbie Ray fan.
Pete Crow-Armstrong was moved up to lead off with Ian Happ on the IL, and he went 2 for 3 with his 11th home run. This is where I get myself in trouble. Did you notice that Pete Crow-Armstrong was hitting 200 in his previous 16 games before this one? However, he still had 5 homers and 3 steals during that span. So not like he's completely crushing you, but I just thought it was notable that the batting average was trending down for the past, 2.5 weeks for PCA.
Let me pull something up because he is maybe the most aggressive hitter in baseball. There could be other words if you want him. Reckless. I don't know. He swings at way too many pitches outside of the strike zone. His last 15 games, he has swung at 54% of pitches out of the strike zone.
Jeez.
He's making it work, but it's just, this all feels very precarious. I don't know. Like this is really 63% swing rate over the past 15 games. He is just swinging at almost everything. That is a really, really hard approach to make work. And maybe he will continue to do it, but it just feels like it's going to go sideways at some point for Crow-Armstrong. But we've been saying that, and it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, in defense of ourselves here, we're not saying like Pete Crow-Armstrong is bad. I don't want any Cubs fans in the mentions or anything like that. Just letting you know that, with any young player, there's going to be ups and downs. And so the batting average was trending down. I thought it was worth pointing out. We got bad Jose Berrios here against the Rays. 5 1/3, 5 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. And did you notice that he has 3+ walks in 5 of 9 starts? For somebody like Jose Berrios, Chris, who doesn't miss a ton of bats, I don't think that he can walk that many and kind of get away with what he normally does. So I think he's got to figure that out.
Man, I'm going to be honest, and maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I'm being too honest here. Maybe I'm exposing myself a little bit, but I hope this is a safe space. Jose Berrios is one of those pitchers I just don't think about. I don't know. Am I alone in that? It's just like, I feel like I know who he is so well.
Do you have him on any of your fantasy teams?
No.
So that's why.
Yeah. I
have him in a few spots. So.
I go through the box scores every week. Like I write about, 60% of the starters in any given day. And he is one that there is almost never anything notable about him because we have such a long track record of who he is. And I know the performance fluctuates from one season to the next. In season, he's never as good as he looks at his best. He's never as bad as he looks at his worst. It does feel like we might be on the precipice of him being more bad than good. Underlying numbers last year were pretty bad, even though the results were fine. Underlying numbers right now are really bad. So, yeah, Berrios, you probably shouldn't drop him, but I don't think you'd regret it if you did.
I don't think I would either, but the swinging strike rate has been below 10% 2 years in a row. I think the control has to be better if we want to get a typical Jose Berrios season out of him. If not, then we might be looking at something more like a, 4 ERA with like a 125 or 130 whip for Berrios this season. Elly De La Cruz launched a game-tying home run in the 9th inning. It was his 7th homer of the season. But Chris, did you notice he has a 60% ground ball rate this season? That is a problem.
Yeah, that's not what you want. And it's, the striker rate's a little better, but it's still 29%. He hasn't really taken a big step forward. He's not hitting the ball as hard as he did in years past. The one thing I will say is I think he's still very much a very high variance player. And that's probably going to be the case probably forever for Elly De La Cruz. I know he's still young and it's still relatively early in his career, but there's just been zero signs of stability so far for him. He's striking out less against left-handed pitching so far. He's still not hitting them well, though. So I don't know what to make of that. I will say, there was a little bit of Elly De La Cruz new batting stance. He's going to be better than ever this year. And it's I didn't really buy into that. I need more than a slight tweak in batting stance to buy into a player, and that's looking like the right call. He's going to get hot. He's going to have a 950 OPS at some point in a month soon, because that's what he does. It's just there will be 600 OPS months as well. It just I still think Elly De La Cruz is fundamentally a high variance player.
Even with him having a quote unquote slow start, I guess you could say 250, 7 home runs, 14 steals for Elly De La Cruz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good pace right now.
The bad times are never bad with him. It can be frustrating.
It's just,
but that's very different than bad.
It's crazy because you know how talented he is. So it's tantalizing, right? You almost want to see him do it all the time. Yep. It obviously doesn't work that way in baseball, but you know, he's such a freak athlete. It's just, you just want to see more of it. And so there are consistency issues there with Elly De La Cruz. Spencer Schwellenbach turned in a quality start against the Nationals, 7 innings, 2 runs, 3 strikeouts. But did you notice that he has 4 strikeouts or less in 4 of 9 starts this season? The whiff rate is down on his curve and splitter. Yet his swinging strike rate was still 13.6% entering the start. So I don't really know what to do with all that, Chris. I would say just fundamentally, if your swinging strike rate is that high, I would expect you to have a K per 9 higher than 7.6. But I don't know. Maybe it's just like a weird sequencing thing for him right now.
He had a relatively higher swinging strike rate than strikeout rate last season as well, right?
Well, it was also right around 13.5%.
Okay.
I think he was like 9K per 9, right around there.
Okay. For some reason, I thought he was more in like the 14% or 14.5% swinging strike rate last year. Yeah, he's just been a little worse at almost everything. The walk rate is still very good, but it just kind of feels like it's been a slight step back across the board for Schwellenbach. Did you know he only has 2 starts with more strikeouts than innings pitched? There was the start against the Marlins where he had 10 and 8 innings.
Yeah.
Then there was a start against the Dodgers where he gave up 6 runs in 3 2/3 innings, but did have 4 strikeouts. Those are the only 2 where Spencer Schwellenbach has had more strikeouts than innings pitched. Slider has still been mostly pretty good, especially today. 6 whiffs with it. Splitter has taken a big step back, and so has the curveball in terms of whiff rates. That seems to be the biggest explanation for the strikeout rate being down. I don't know. Schwellenbach's in a weird spot where he's clearly not bad, but he's not making the leap to acedom that we hoped. I think he's just solid. And I'm not sure where to rank him as a result, because clearly there's upside. Clearly there's talent. Clearly he's still very inexperienced. And so it could just be a question of, like you mentioned, sequencing, putting the right pitches in the right spots in the right moments. Would you rather have Spencer Schwellenbach or Brian Wu rest of season?
Yeah, that's getting.
I think Brian Wu's just a better pitcher right now, right?
It's getting much closer. And yeah, I mean, thus far, I've got to take an L on Brian Wu. I mean, I wasn't worried about performance. It's just health. Now, will he stay healthy? Nobody can answer that question. But, you know, what he's done on the field this season, 6+ innings in every start, and he's not walking anybody. It's closer to a strikeout per inning. That's close. I'll still take Schwellenbach, but admittedly, I think Brian Wu needs to move up. I think he's more like a top 30, top 25 starting pitcher rest of season.
Oh, he's 22 for me already.
So yeah, I think I just need to move him up.
Yeah. What about Joe Ryan versus Spencer Schwellenbach?
Yeah, that's another really close one. That's the right range though. I think, you know, Schwellenbach after the first couple starts, maybe we elevated him too high, like a top 15-ish starting pitcher, but I think he's kind of settling into this, you know, low end SP2 range.
Might be more in that 20 range. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spencer Schwellenbach or Logan Webb, one more.
I'll take Logan Webb there.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. He looks like a different pitcher, and he's just, there's so much volume. He's done it for so long. So yeah, I'll take Logan Webb over Schwellenbach. Tyler Soderstrom 0 for 5 with a golden sombrero. Did you know that he has not homered since April 17th, 22 games before tonight? 265 batting average, 0 homers, a 644 OPS. Chris, what's going on with Tyler Soderstrom?
I did know this because you mentioned it before the show.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and after the 4th strikeout game, his strikeout rate is up to 28% since April 17th. It was like 24% or 25% before this, so not too alarming. That's the small sample sizes we're dealing with, though. It's only 96 plate appearances that we're tired, 97 plate appearances. So, look, I expected Tyler Soderstrom to slow down. And we had many conversations when he was in the middle of his hot streak about how high to rank him. And the thing with these kind of breakouts, and maybe we have, I don't know if I've done a good enough job making this argument that I have in the past, but what I always want to see is not what they look like when they break out, but what they look like after they slump, because everybody's going to slump. No hitter is immune from slumping except apparently Aaron Judge. And so I think you learn so much about a hitter from the adjustment to the adjustment. You know, like we were talking about with Jacob Wilson earlier, where pitchers are challenging him. They're throwing a ton of pitches in the strike zone. Now, do we see them go away from that? Do we see them start to see if he'll chase and hit some weak grounders because he's going to swing at everything? It's the adjustment to the adjustment that I want to see. And right now, Tyler Soderstrom's going through it. He's struggling. Still hits the ball really hard. Quality of contact metrics, expected stats, still very, very good overall. But
yeah,
baseball's a hard sport, and you learn from failure. And we're going to learn a lot about Tyler Soderstrom in the next month. I'm still optimistic about him, but I also didn't move him into my top 12 at first base when he was super hot. So I have a little more room to hold on him.
Mm-hmm. I've got him there. I've got him inside the top 12. I moved Torkelson inside the top 12.
You know what? He did get moved in there just because of the Casas injury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I moved both Soderstrom and Torkelson ahead of Christian Walker and Vinny Pasquantino.
Okay, I haven't done that yet. Yeah,
I think we've kind of seen enough on both sides where, these players just look more impactful right now. And Christian Walker, it's just, I don't know. He had the oblique right before the season, and
it could just ruin his whole year.
Yeah, so a little worried about that. But yeah, Soderstrom still have a ton of confidence in him. And then Brian Wu, just wanted to mention, he was great against the Yankees, 6 1/3 shutout, 6 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on 88 pitches in this one. All 5 of his pitches look useful in one way or another, either generating weak contact or getting whiffs. And he has just 8 walks and 8 starts, and he's gone 6+ innings in all 8 of those outings. So yeah, I think he's totally worthy of being in that low end SP2, high end SP3 conversation.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a comp that I stole. It was either from Eno Saris or Nick Pollock, maybe both. They're both very smart. Brian Wu just reminds me a lot of Zach Wheeler.
Yeah,
just obviously he's got Zach Wheeler's thrown 190 innings a bunch of times, and Brian Wu's never come close. But just in terms of talent, I think that's the best comp for him in terms of his approach, how he pitches, the depth and breadth of his arsenal. I just so impressed by Brian Wu. And the thing is, this was why I was high on him last year, or coming into this season, because last year a switch flipped at the end of July. He went from being babied and throwing 75 pitches every start to throwing 90+ and going 6 innings and really getting the chance to turn lineups over 3 times. And it didn't impact his effectiveness. He was still awesome. I think Brian Wu, the only concerns I have about him at this point are, can he stay healthy?